Real estate in focus once again. I think Brigades, Pavitra is with us. Nigel, take it away.
Well, that's right. We welcome on the show Pavitra Shankar, the Managing Director at Brigade Enterprises. Hi, Pavitra. Good morning. Thanks a lot for waiting by. Well, before we get to your launch, just a quick word with regard to how are you all dealing with the input cost spike as well as the availability. Have you all faced any kind of issues?
Hi, morning. We are waiting to see how the situation develops. Naturally, we've definitely heard from various suppliers that they're experiencing these shocks, especially on the tiles due to the closure of specifically Morbi in Gujarat. We've already heard about that. Definitely, we are expecting to see some of these costs increase, especially as the conflict continues to prolong. So the sooner it ends, it might be, a short-term kind of blip, but the longer it is, I think there will be a prolonged, sort of impact and therefore elevated prices for some time. But that said, we're yet to see how this all pans out. I think it's too early for us to say how much, in which project, etc. So there are some projects where contracts already closed, so that may not impact too much. There we might have supply shocks and, from a time frame perspective instead.
All right, Pavitra, tell us about this foray into industrial real estate. What are the plans out here? What could the booking numbers look like? If you want to give it to us in volume terms as well.
So in terms of traditional bookings per se, it's going to be run a pretty different way. I would liken it to a bit like, I mean, there's no real sort of benchmark to show it against, but it's basically a project where we've launched construction and started construction, and we'll be looking at tenants to take up the space, potentially some tenants to buy some of the space. So we're still evaluating. It's a very niche kind of space. So we're not approaching it in the traditional manner of trying to, show bookings immediately. The project itself is located in a fantastic area. It's part of the aerospace park, in Bangalore, and it's surrounded by a number of companies in the aerospace field and other light industrial kind of activity. So this is where it's we are catering to this tenant base and occupier base, as well as the project will also potentially have a hotel and an office. So it's like a mixed-use industrial park that we're very excited to launch and look at how this kind of new niche segment will also do in cities like Bangalore. Yeah.
Over what period are you looking to develop this entire, industrial park? Is this a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year exercise? What is the investment you're planning? How will you fund it? And what is the overall return potential?
So in terms of the time frame, the construction time frame will take about 3 years or so. It's a little simpler in terms of, it's not as complicated as, say, a residential development, but it is development that is enabling some heavy equipment, etc. So there is more in terms of the structural load, etc., that we need to plan for. The overall township, I think on the industrial side, we will be launching it in phases. So given all of the phasing, I think 3 to 4 years for the industrial phase. We'll be funding it from our internal accruals and potentially, if required, construction financing based on how we see the appetite for monetization as well.
Pavitra, given that input costs are likely to go up, and as you all take some periodic price increases, on a blended basis, what could the price hike be in the vicinity, say in the next 3-6 months or thereabouts?
Yeah, I'd say it's different for different kind of projects. There are many projects where we've sold a substantial amount already. So we're fairly locked in, and any kind of price increase on the remaining inventory won't necessarily make a huge impact in terms of margins. And we'd also be looking at overall demand and trying to balance those two things. In terms of the newer projects where we're yet to launch, or in terms of projects where we're underwriting, we're definitely looking at that a lot more intensely in terms of what kind of contingencies we need to budget for from a costing standpoint. If I just look at our projects where we've already launched on a like-to-like basis, we've been pricing in more of a single-digit price increase, which is something I've been indicating towards for a long, for maybe the last year or so.
Yes.
Because a lot of the substantial price increases that we've seen from 2022, those double-digit increases have led to sharp increase in pricing overall. And I think going forward, it was more likely that we would see single-digit price increases. Now we do need to see how to balance that along with the demand picture and the consumer sentiment. So it makes for interesting times.
All right, final question, 15 to 20% booking growth guidance. Do you stick to that for FY26?
Well, actually, after Q3, we were indicating that there is a significant, dependency on new launches coming in. We had guided for maybe another 4 million square feet to be launched this financial year. The happy news is we did get those launches, but the timing has been sort of not ideal. We've just got those RERAs in the past week. So we're doing what we can to, reflect that as much as possible. But it looks like some of the guidance on the booking value will definitely get right shifted into the next financial quarter.
Okay, very quickly, one question. Other than the tile issue at Morbi, is construction getting affected due to any other shortages for the industry?
Definitely. I mean, the oil price increase is impacting multiple things. Definitely on the logistical side, in terms of petrochemical inputs, on copper, aluminum, UPVC, cement, potentially at some point. So naturally anything where there is like an impact on oil and diesel and fuel prices, that does have an impact to varying extents for raw materials as well. And we're pretty downstream, so everyone else sort of trying to manage their costs will have an impact on us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Pavitra. Good speaking with you. It's always a pleasure getting that perspective, and we all hope this winds down soon. Thank you. Time for a break. We're back.